Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Small Business Show. My name is Swire Ho. You can also call me a promo guy. My guest today is Bryce Henson from Fitbody Bootcamp. Fitbody Bootcamp is the world's fastest growing fitness bootcamp franchise. Having nearly 20 years of fitness business experience and owning his own Fitbody location, his passion spreading fitness to the world through passion of coaching. Through fitness, Fitbody Bootcamp's worldwide growth, Bryce has overseen hundreds of gyms successfully launched throughout North America. Most importantly, he helps his franchise partner grow their profit while helping offset the obese epidemic. Bryce enjoyed world traveling and is a fitness expert, coach, author, and inspirational leader. Welcome to the show, Bryce.
Hey, Swire, thanks so much for having me. Very, very excited to be here today.
I know we have a lot to unpack in this episode, but I'd love to find out from your journey. You started as a fitness trainer. What walk us through the journey? What was the turning point to make you wanted to go from a fitness gym owner to a franchise owner and to a business leader, and where you are today?
Oh, that's a great question. It's a lot to unpack, but I'll give you a high level. I've lived in Southern California for about 20 years at the time of recording, but I was not a fit guy whatsoever. In fact, coming from the Midwest, humble beginnings for first world standards in the Midwest is a great place, amazing salt of the earth people, but not the fitness capital of the world. So I always joke around that I was allergic to lifting weights, and fast food, specifically Taco Bell, is a staple in my diet. So that was my foundation. So if you're listening to this and you want to get fit, if you want to get active, if you want to grow yourself as from personal growth and a self-mastery perspective, my message is you can do anything that you put your mind to. And just because you're not where you are at the moment doesn't mean that you can't land where you want to be. So that was kind of my foundation, Swire, for the first probably 2 decades of my life. And then I moved out to Southern California in early 2004, and I was excited to be in LA, the palm trees, the blue skies, the beaches, all that Southern California and LA has to offer. But as we both know, LA can be the also plastic capital of the world when you're 3,000 miles from home, little professional skills, little network. And really, when you break it down, Swire, I didn't have fitness in my life, and which meant I didn't have confidence and energy, enthusiasm. So I lived that way for a couple years, had more dark days than good. And really, to answer your direct question in terms of how I got in the fitness space, a fortuitous situation happened. One of my close friends to this day, his name is Adam. He was my first fitness mentor, and we went to college together. And he moved out west, and we lived together for the better part of 2 years. And he took me under his wing, and he was my first, I guess, unofficial personal trainer and coach, if you will. And what he did for 2 years, but hyper focused over 6 months, he introduced me to fitness and circuit training and lifting weights and clean nutrition. But most importantly, introduced me to coaching and accountability, because as I followed his program, within about 6 months, I dropped 20 pounds of body fat. I put 20 pounds of lean muscle, which is great. I got the aesthetic look that I was looking for. But Swire, we all know, and we were talking offline, just how foundational fitness is to someone's life, their success, both in business and life in general. And, going through that transformation, it changed my life to a T. And really that inspired me after about a year or two training with him, after someone walked up to me at the gym, after, seeing my, work ethic and transformation, and introduced themselves asking for some fitness and nutrition coaching. And I thought, oh my goodness, like, maybe I could actually give this gift of fitness back, just like Adam gave it to me. So I guess I'll stop here to kind of engage with you. But really, that was my, move to California, my start in the industry, the way I got fit. I transformed myself. And then I had this big aha when someone asked me about my nutrition and working out protocol. What if I could become a personal trainer? So that was really my next step. And then we can talk a little bit about more of the business journey from there.
Thank you for sharing. I think life is all about making choices. So are you running to McDonald's, or are you running to, maybe having a salad for you? Are you going to stay up at night to party, or are you going to study, tying back to business, right? Working on your objective for next year. Are you planning for what's moving forward? Because I think I could find a lot of relationship from being a fitness professional into business, because you got to have the discipline. There's something that you have to do, and there are things that if you're smart enough, you shouldn't be doing. And then at the same time, a lot of us like to set New Year's goal, right? When we go to the gym, when I go to the gym, first couple of weeks of the new year is the most busy, and then it dries off. And I'm sure you can probably attest to that. And then in business also, like a lot of us plan for success, but then we don't have the discipline to execute it. Can you touch on that? Like when we set goal, what are some of the advice that you would say that we can make sure that we actually do those goals that we have set?
Yeah, it's a great question, Swire. And I think to your point, it comes down to discipline when you break it down, and easier said than done. But when you're disciplined with yourself, you show up, in such a positive way in so many ways. Number one, for yourself and for your family. Number two, for your team. And number three, for your clients and your following. And I think that's so mission critical. And when you're disciplined, when you stick to a fitness regimen, when you stick to nutrition regimen, you have more energy. So it actually translates not only to your life, but also your business. And when you have more energy, when you have more enthusiasm, more conviction, you can become a better leader. You can, guide your team on a better way to go. So I think, big picture, I want to start there. But in terms of some tangible action steps on, creating better goals, I think what happens is many times in good intention, but people overestimate. I think the words of Tony Robbins, overestimate what they can do in 1 year, and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. So specifically to fitness or business for that matter, but specifically to fitness, to your question, people, maybe if you're listening to this and you can relate, you haven't been fit, or you've been slacking on your workouts, or maybe you haven't worked out, forever. And then you have this big audacious dream that you want to lose 35 pounds and you want to get to 10% body fat, which is an incredible goal. But then you kind of have this vision and you start attacking it. And it's as if you went from 0 fitness and then you want to go to 10 fitness, a level 10 fitness overnight. And then what happens is the first week or two, you're excited, you're motivated. But then a couple of weeks settle in, and the reality sets in that, hey, your muscles are achy. This is harder than you thought. And then because you're not getting the result quick enough, then it's easy to actually throw in the towel and give up. And that's actually, kind of a common theme to human nature, but specifically New Year's resolution goals, which you laid out as well. So I think a much better goal is actually more of a process goal than a results goal, at least at first. So if you haven't worked out in forever, and if your fitness is out of whack and you're not eating well, instead of going from 0 workouts to 7 workouts every single day, or 7 workouts a week, working 2 or 3 hours a day, that's just unrealistic. What if, for the first week, you just, commit to yourself, you can move 2 times during that week, even if it's a 10 to 15 minute walk. And once you get, a week or 2 weeks under your belt, well, how about we increase that from 10 to 15 minutes to 20 to 25 or 30? And then let's do that for another month. And then once we build a baseline foundation that you're working, you're moving your body, 2 to 3 times a week, and you're doing that, 20, 25 minutes a day, then let's add some more water, or then, let's work on your sleep. So what I refer to this to my franchise partners, to the coaches and clients, is taking a stepladder approach. And if you take a stepladder approach, kind of really, create more of a bite-sized goals for what you want to attack, at least to begin with, then what happens is you create some momentum. And once you start creating momentum, that creates more motivation. And then you're more likely to stick with, the fitness program, in this particular case, long-term. So that would probably be, to put a bow on that aspect, my best advice to creating strong goals and keeping with that goal. Start small, take a stepladder approach. Once you accomplish those, you'll build momentum, and then you'll build more motivation to continue.
Yeah, I really like that. If we, plug it into a business example. So if you watch YouTube, let's say you want to be a public speaker, for example, you watch TED Talk. I can never talk like that, you say, but those people have practiced years, if not their whole career, just to talk like that. Going back to the fitness example, like you see Instagram, right? So sometimes it's demoting, right? You see beach body ready, but now you haven't worked out since like 10, 15 years ago. So don't assume that people look that good. They just walk out like that. It takes years of practice. And I like your example. And for me, what I like to do when setting goal is, imagine I am there standing at the goal, like whatever that I want to be, success wise or maybe fitness wise. Looking back, what did I do to get me to that point? So there will be bits and pieces. So I know that in order to get to be a TED Talk speaker, you probably have to get some smaller public speaking. You got to be comfortable with your material. Maybe you shouldn't be just crunching your face, be more relaxed. There are steps to get there. I really like that example. Sometimes we don't give ourselves enough time. right? So we want overnight success. You might have it. There are examples for that, but not everyone can be an overnight success.
It's so true. And I think you use a great example of a public speaker. And if you've never given a public speech and then you see a TED Talk expert who's been doing this for 10 or 15 years, yeah, you want to get there. And maybe you can and will get there in 10 years, but you're not going to get there in the first 6 months. And that's okay. Taking that step ladder approach is really important. And it actually reminded me of a fitness client back when I first started. This is in 2012 when I opened my first Fitbody location in the smallest town within Orange County. And my friend Courtney, to this day, we've been friends, for going on 15 years now. And she was about 150 pounds overweight, and she hadn't been in the gym in forever. She didn't have the confidence in her. But, when I sat down with her in a strategy session, I could just tell the look in her eye, and she wanted a better life. She wanted a better result. And what we agreed to wasn't a 5-year plan. We agreed to a 28-day plan to get on the program for 28 days. And did she lose 150 pounds in 28 days? Absolutely not. But she lost 3 or 4, and that created more momentum and motivation. And kind of to the point earlier, it took about a solid 2 years of work, but she was able to, lose, I want to say about 140, 150 pounds in that 2-year period. And if she would have thought to herself, I want to lose 150 pounds in 2 months, she would have been sadly mistaken. But having that kind of longer term approach and then, crunching the goals to bite size, endeavors, it made that much more manageable and palatable. And then fast forward 2 years later, she wakes up a different person. So I think that's a great strategy you can implement in fitness and business and, sales and marketing and life.
Yeah, I really love that. I can always quote fitness analogy into business and business analogy back to fitness. So I think it's fun. That's
Yeah.
why I guess I keep doing it.
Love it.
Want to ask
Absolutely.
you this question. I know that you have been working with a business coach. Can you talk about the experience working with a business coach? And then what are the reasons that prompt you in the beginning to hire a business coach to coach you?
Incredible question. And I think Fitbody in general, my business is a coaching business. So we're fitness coaches and,
Hmm.
we employ hundreds of fitness coaches throughout North America. And really the foundation and why I drive so much value is my first fitness coach was Adam, who I just had mentioned to you, and I got an incredible fitness result, which then, gave me more confidence to change my career. And then to your point, when I first found the Fitbody Bootcamp model, I'm the CEO of the brand. I oversee the brand, but I'm not the founder. The founder is actually one of my business coaches, a mentor and a business partner to this day. And his zone of genius is plentiful. He's really, really big and well-known in the self-mastering personal growth. But when I first started following him, his name is Bedros Keuilian, he was teaching content on sales and marketing. So I hired him as a business coach specifically to help me from a marketing lens, because as I got fit myself through the journey that I experienced with you, my sales career actually exploded. I became the least performing sales rep in the company, all the way to the highest performing sales rep in the company. And only one thing had changed, and that was my level of fitness. So I was confident that I could use my fitness, my personal growth, my confidence, my salesmanship skills that I acquired to basically grow the business, but I was not confident from a marketing lens. So I hired Bedros, and he really gave me an awesome framework and really taught me at a foundational level the key concepts of not only marketing in general and branding, but specifically direct response marketing. And that was just so mission critical for me. And I think the value of a business coach is, number one, iron sharpens iron. So anytime you're in the presence of someone who's smart, who has, big goals and that has, a great energy around those, you're going to get better from that presence alone. Number two, they have to be a strong guide or have expertise. Kind of thinking about it, we were talking offline. You're from Hong Kong. I spent about 6 months of my life in Hong Kong. I love Hong Kong. So beautiful. Probably a good idea if you were ever to visit Hong Kong for the first time would be to get a guide like you who speaks fluent Cantonese, who can show you around Hong Kong. You're just going to get a much better look at an experience in Hong Kong if you have a guide who has that level of expertise. And I think that's just so mission critical. So for me, I hired that outside guide, and Bedros having that market experience, because when I combined the sales experience I had and then the marketing framework that he taught me, then my business was able to launch and then explode. So that was a huge value to me, is the second bullet point. And I think the third bullet point kind of is similar to the first one about iron sharpens iron, but it really specifically, it gives you outside eyes on your business, on your growth, on your areas that you the areas that you succeed, but also, Swire, the areas that you need growth and big opportunities to grow. And the biggest thing is we're just, as humans, we're emotional beings. So when you're in your own business, okay, you have a higher degree of emotion behind it. But when then you hire a business coach who has outside eyes, unemotional eyes, they can actually just give you better unemotional, logical coaching. Because again, if you're in your own world, then you're going to get emotional. And sometimes when you're highly emotional, you make bad decisions. So that third aspect of, having someone with outside eyes has just, been really, really a big game changer for me. And I've seen it done, many throughout our organization. So to put a bow on it, that's why I believe coaching is just so mission critical if you really want to take your business to the next level.
Yeah, I think that's a really good example. And, to coaches, because they're not emotionally attached to whatever that you're trying to do, either in fitness or in business. When they see something that is off, maybe just by an inch, for example, when you, let's say, lifting weights, that could mean hurting yourself and to make a good lift. And in business, when you are off by your KPI or the matrix that you use, when coaches sees that, if you fix that or address that immediately, it could save you a lot of time and headache. Imagine that you haven't filed your taxes the right way for 5, 10 years. If you have to go back and fix it, it'll be a painful experience. Speaking of that, Bryce, I wanted to ask you, a lot of service provider, it could be fitness coaches, it could be a consultant, it can even be doctors and lawyers. They have their profession, right? They have their expertise. They don't want to be salesperson. Can I ask you for the advice? You mentioned that you hire your coach because of the sales experience, and then you kind of transform yourself to be the top salesperson. What was the thinking process to that? What makes you think that you now have to become a salesperson? You actually have to do business development in order to grow your main business, which is by then the fitness industry.
Yeah, well, Swire, incredible question. And sometimes in professions that are very sought after and that take a lot of credentials, like in medicine, as an example, a practitioner can go through the ranks and then, feel like their accreditation and certification and knowledge will be enough, and they don't need to be able to market and sell themselves. And I just think that's not good advice, because at the end of the day, if you can't sell, you can't serve. And even if you're at the top of your class and best of your class, you need to be able to sell yourself, sell the vision, and sell the solution to your clientele. And the best framework example that I can provide is the infamous Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, speaking of lifting weights, I mean, he's, famously always, I guess, cited talking about his fitness coaches, his training buddy. I can't remember his name back in the day. Franco was his name. I think his name is not Jim Franco, but Franco. He was an Italian guy. In any case, he trained with him over the course of time. And by training with Franco, Schwarzenegger got better, got stronger, and vice versa. So that was really foundational to his fitness, game. But then specifically, I guess, in terms of from a salesmanship, in terms of his movie career. So after he dominated Mr. Olympia at the bodybuilding, then he transitioned because his big dream was to become a Hollywood movie star. And what he said one time is, okay, while I'm the main star in the film, a lot of times Hollywood celebrities, they're adverse to actually selling their film, which is a major mistake. So my job is twofold as an action star. It's number one, to be in the film, to be, the artist, if you will, and making the craft. The second job I have is to market and sell the film. And that's how he got famous with the Terminator movies and all the incredible movies, because he loved his craft. He really dedicated his life at becoming better at his craft. And that's up to you whether you say he's a good actor or not. But what something is not refutable, he's an incredibly best-selling actor because his movies were absolute blockbusters, because the second aspect of his focus was not only need to create the magic of the movie, but I need to sell and market the movie. And I think when I learned his framework years ago, that really never left me. So I thought to myself, in my first coaching business, I got to be a great coach, but I also need to learn how to sell and market my services. And then now in the franchising business, I need to understand, systems and operations and franchising, but I also, my key job is to be the sales and marketer of the entire brand. So, that's my perspective on it. It served me really well. It served Schwarzenegger and many of the likes really well. And that's my strong advice.
Yeah, we're talking about Arnold now. Like, he just like the master showman, right? He liked to capture the spotlight. And you're right, you might be the expert in your field, and then you still got to develop your own personal brand. Like, it doesn't matter if you're the highest achieved medical professional. If no one knows about you, then no one knows about you. I would say some of the best coaches and are they have that niche, right? For Arnold, when you're talking about the movies, I know he's been on a podcast trail for a while now because of a news book. They mentioned that you have a strong Austrian accent. You can never be in Hollywood, like they speak perfect English. But then they
Yeah.
find a role in Terminator that speaks like a robot. Arnold can only play Terminator like other people can because they don't look and sound like a robot. So I think if you find a niche and if you are able to brand yourself and if you're able to market your own expertise, people will follow you. And now, as you know, Bryce, with the internet, people can follow you and jump onto what your message worldwide because of easy access to content.
Oh, that's so, so true. And, good on Arnold for being able to draw that attention specific to personal branding. And this is something that's so important, especially for coaches and consultants and authors and general business people. If you're, watching this, especially if you're CEO of the brand, being able to create a personal brand is so important. Think of Tesla as an example. When you think of Tesla, you automatically think of Elon Musk because Elon Musk has developed this personal brand, whether you love him or hate him. And, for me, I love him. But at the end of the day, because okay, you think Elon Musk, when you immediately equate to Tesla with that. So really, really important big picture. I think my biggest piece of advice, and this is on the journey that I'm going through now, starting out when you're developing your personal brand, you want to niche as very defined as possible because there's a lot of noise out there. So really, when someone thinks of your name, what are they going to think of? And for me, I know sales and marketing and general business, but really leadership is my zone of genius and the skill set that I love the most and I love teaching the most. So I'm in the process of continuing to develop my personal brand specifically on providing leadership guidance that provides, my audience more income and impact. So specifically when someone thinks of Bryce Henson, that's what I want them to think of. Now, fast forward 10 to 15 years, and I'm not comparing myself to the great Tony Robbins, but at some point, do I want to be bigger and do I want to be a success coach and a mindset coach and a business coach? I certainly could be. Those are much more general things, but with my personal brand that I'm building right now from a leadership perspective, eventually that will catapult me and allow me to branch off into bigger things. And I think that's the power of a personal brand. It can really, it can ride with you during the course of your career, and it can add massive value to you, but also the companies that you sell and that you serve.
Yeah, I really like your mindset, and you are seeing things and you wanted to develop and help people. What prompts you initially to think like that? You went from unfit, and then you got some coaching. You're getting fit. Open up your first Fitbody location, and you have a second location. What makes you mix the jump to where you are right now? And you have location franchises worldwide.
It's a great question. And my short answer, it's an evolution. When I first started my first franchise business back in 2012, which was what came after the story that I closed the loop about, me coming to California and getting fit and being inspired and becoming a certified personal trainer and launching a coaching business, then it really inspired me to open a brick and mortar facility because I thought I could have more impact by developing a brick and mortar in-person training environment, building a team and a culture of awesome, like-minded people. And that was my first iteration. I decided to link up with the Fitbody Bootcamp brand. Bedros, my first mentor and business partner to this day. I sought his advice because he knew how to market, and marketing and sales is mission critical to any business. Well, it doesn't matter what type of business you have if you're listening to this particular episode. So that's how I started. But my vision, was not to brand myself as a leadership expert, being able to provide, guidance on my following, how to create more impact and income. That's just been an evolution with time. So after I got my first location off the ground, then over a period of first 6 years, I ended up scaling to a handful of locations. I brought my family on board, I ended up opening 5 locations. And then I realized, oh, wow, not only sales and marketing, but leadership is probably, one of the most important tools in your arsenal as an entrepreneur, because you need to be able to, number one, lead yourself. But then number two, you need to be able to lead your clients. And most importantly, as your organization grows, you need to be able to lead your team. So for me, that journey of the first 6 years of my business growth, I was learning so many different things. I didn't really have a good understanding of where long-term I wanted to go, but I knew I was on the strong path. But the good news is once you take one step forward, the path forward becomes more clear. And that led me to 2018 when Fitbody Bootcamp, the brand, was really starting to hockey stick in terms of growth. At that point, I was a franchise partner in the brand, multiple locations. But our founder, Bedros, who I referred to a few times, ended up offering me the vice president role, which then ended up becoming the CEO role. And at that moment in time, I didn't have the vision that I wanted to be, a CEO of an international fitness franchise. But as I kept on taking steps in terms of developing myself from a personal perspective, from a fitness perspective, from a business ownership perspective, to a multi-location owner business perspective, to a leader, then what I realized is, okay, the next evolution can be to oversee a fitness brand. And that's, the journey I've been on for the last, handful of years now. And, as I look ahead, I want to continue to, grow the brand. Our global mission is to inspire fitness and change lives. And we were talking about this offline. I love business. I love fitness. And the fact that I get to blend the two is incredible. And then as, time goes on, who knows what that's going to lead me to, but I think the big message here, and I've been guilty of this as well, but sometimes human nature, we just kind of get analysis by paralysis, and there's so many options. And what do we do? Take action to something that, it interests you. And if you don't know, take a lot of different action in a lot of different spaces, figure out what you don't like, and then figure out what you do like, and then gravitate to what you do like. And as you continue to take more steps towards what you like more, then more insight, more God shots, if you will, more expertise and information will be presented to you, and the path will become clearer. So that's really been my formula for success, and something that I would highly recommend for your audience as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Then my follow-up question will be, you mentioned finding your niche, right? Your target audience. So from the beginning, obviously, when you have local gym, then it will probably be people around maybe 15 or 20 miles away from you. But now having a global brand, you have to help franchisees do their own marketing. How would you suggest listener adjust the niche at their target audience when you get bigger? Do you revise your growth and say, now we're at this size or this level of a company, so we could probably expand or change the target audience? Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think with growth and time, you actually open yourself up to a bigger audience. But again, using my analogy in the personal branding, it very carries through in any branding that you're going to do for marketing for a company. First, you want to start with a niche. And I would even take your initial example, which is a great example, even further. So when you open a brick and mortar, I would say, depending on the area and geography that you live in Southern California, no more than 10 miles is someone to drive to a gym, and probably closer to 5. But even more than that, specifically at Fitbody Bootcamp, we don't train, everyone. We don't train high performance athletes. We don't train Olympic bodylifters or weightlifters. We train Mrs. Jones. So our niche, our really avatar, is Mrs. and Mr. Jones, as well as typically her husband or her spouse. But Mrs. Jones, who's in her 40s, she hasn't worked out in a long time, or maybe ever. She actually doesn't love working out, but she knows she needs a better quality of life. She's about 40 to 50 pounds overweight. She has a couple kids. Bless her heart. She spends all of her focus on taking care of her family, making sure that her kids are taken care of, and her household is taken care of, and that her work commitments are being fulfilled. So all her focus is externally, and what she realizes is she needs to carve out a little bit of time every single day. Well, she's not a fitness expert. She needs coaching and she needs guidance, and most importantly, she needs community of like-minded people who are going to support her. So specifically, we know our avatar so clearly. And on one hand, while as young franchise partners and young entrepreneurs, their biggest concern is like, well, if we niche down so much, we're going to say no to a lot of people. And that's a good thing, because when you say no to a lot of people, what you're doing is you're saying yes, and you're really clearly speaking to the right type of person. And when the right type of person, in this case, Mrs. Jones, sees your Facebook ad or sees your Instagram ad, and you're targeting her specifically, you're speaking to her pain points and her frustrations and her solutions, then the sea of social media ads, she's going to immediately connect to that. So really, to put a bow on it, Swire, niching down to your target audience and your target market, way more than just geography, but really specifically getting to know your avatar is really, really important. And, the biggest question is, well, how do you know who you want to train? Figure out who were you, the younger version of yourself, and go train that person. And, for some of you out there listening, you're you're Mr. or Mrs. Jones. Well, hey, if you want to eventually be getting a coaching business, that would probably, in the fitness space, that'd be probably a good target audience. If you're, if you've done bodybuilding in your career, then hey, and this example is specifically if you're interested in a fitness coaching, but it can apply to any business, then hey, maybe it's a good idea to actually start training, younger bodybuilding type of clientele. So this all to say, it's really, really important to niche to start. The good news though, as your market share expands and grows, you can add different products and services, especially as your branding gets bigger, to serve a wider audience.
I think that's really great advice. I remember having dinner with a famous, I would say, Instagram online coach, right? So he has a lot of followers, but he told me his business is struggling. I said, why? Your following, he has like almost 500,000 followers. I said, why do you do that? He said that people who like my posts, who comment on my posts, are not my client. And then with your example, you actually niche down so much, then you're actually, like you said, saying no to majority of people. But if you're Mrs. Jones, when you see your post, when you see the content, while he's talking to me, I have to go and check it out. And what's all this talk about? So if the coach is able to niche down whatever area that he or she might be in, then it's scary a lot of time because we think we're missing out. Like everyone needs to be fit. Everyone needs to go exercise, but you can't help everyone. Even if you are the biggest gym in the world, you can't help everyone. So for the ones who will stay for a while, for coaches who've been in the game for a while, they know exactly who they're coaching. And if you're good coaches, it's all about how many times you say no than to say yes to someone.
That is so true. And there's been many examples I've seen where, people have a massive audience, like you said, the person that you were connected with 500,000, but really they're not serving their target demographic. So their list is not very highly engaged. On the flip side, I've seen, fitness coaches with, an audience of 5,000 people on their Instagram and their email list. 5,000 compared to 500,000 are there two different ball games. But if you have a very highly engaged, interactive list of 5,000 people that when you speak, you're speaking directly into their soul, directly into their heart, you're going to be able to grow a business much quicker than in your example, even if you have 500,000 followers, but whatever you put out doesn't really connect. And that's the value of at least starting in niche to niche, even though to your point, it can be scary at first. With time, you can continue to grow and expand.
Yeah, I think one way that I suggest to him was to ask your favorite client. In business, I would ask people to connect with the top 10 client, really to ask them, you have choices out there. You have, whatever industry that you're in, I have competition. You could buy from anyone really in the world. Why do you choose to work with me? And then really take notes, and these are your audience. Maybe they point out a few things that they like you and your business about. Then can you make that into your content? Can you make that into your message? Maybe there are more people out there that are like your top 10 or top 10 client in the fitness industry. Go find them. They're somewhere out there.
That is such great advice. It's actually advice that I've taken action upon myself, because it goes back to human nature. And my initial kind of comment about the value of a business coach is, we're as human nature, we're an emotional state around our own thing, where if you have someone with outside eyes, they can actually give you some unemotional, logical viewpoint. And sometimes you don't even know why people are really engaging with you. You don't even know to a really deep degree your zone of genius. So many times when I'm building out leadership content and training, I've just reached out to my clients, my franchise partners, and my team. It's like, hey, what are 2 or 3 things that you really, really enjoy and gain value from the way I operate, the way I lead? And then by them giving you that feedback, it gives you insight. Oh, wow, this is actually what's connecting with someone. And you can build more content. You can build more asset, resources, product, or services around that. So, to your point, sometimes going inward, just really getting feedback, specifically your audience, can actually showcase big value and showcase, how you can continue to build out future value for your clientele.
Yeah, I really like that. And Bryce, I know that with the conversation on fitness and business, I could probably hold you here for the next 2 hours, but I'm not going to do that. For listener, or especially for fitness coaches who are interested in learning more about what you do, what would be a best way to connect with you?
I appreciate that, my friend. And the best way is I'm also a podcast host as well. So if I can be of service, would highly encourage you to subscribe to the Fitness CEO podcast. And I think you linked it in the show notes. Fitnessceopodcast.com is where you can find us. And that's just a great way for me to connect and continue to add value. I typically teach on leadership, general business, sales, marketing, but most importantly, personal growth and self-mastery. So that's where you can find me, and I highly encourage you to follow along.
Thank you so much for coming on to the show today. I learned a lot.
Twine, it was great. Pleasure's mine. And thank you so much for your time.
All right.